Hi, my name's He Who's in the Water. Gonna be playing another league of Pauper Tron here. Basically the same list as last time. One change that I did make was we're playing a Bajuka Bog this time, in place of, I believe it was the third Thornwood Falls. Bajuka Bog is a pretty interesting card to talk about. Um, in this deck, its primary use in the current meta is for affinity and other ephemerate strategies, so the two big ones being Jeskai Wildfire and Blue White Familiars. So it's helpful versus affinity when we transition into this more interactive mid-range strategy where we're trying to actually one-for-one them on certain axes with Blue Elemental Blast and Ancient Grudge. And so Bajuka Bog is really helpful as far as keeping Blood Fountain from running away with the game and getting them access to too many of those resources again. And it's also it's also good versus those ephemerate decks just by locking them out, and having a good second target for crop rotation, as well as just being uncounterable if you draw it. Uncounterable Graveyard Hate can be pretty difficult for those decks to interact with, and Ghostly Flicker along with Bajuka Bog represents another form of inevitability that you can play towards. And it's also very, not, I wouldn't say very, it can be good in the mirror as well, although the mirror tends not to come down quite to that as much because it's pretty easy to access things again with Ephemerate and Ghostly Flicker, so you have to be pretty far ahead for it to actually impact your opponent in the mirror. But it is problematic as it is a tap land, and it does not tap for any of the colors that you're really interested in. We do have this Dinarova Horror and the Flashback of Mystical Teachings, but by and large, black is the color that you name it the least with Thriving Isle in this deck. So the tap land is bad, and that highlights one of the things that I feel sometimes is not appreciated enough about Tron, which is you're playing a control deck in this format with primarily untapped lands. You've got usually 7 lands that come into play tapped, with the 4 Isle, 2 Thornwood Falls, or Swiftwater Cliffs if you're on Lovebow, and there's a little bit of variation around that, but by and large, about 7 comes into play tapped lands. And the surprising thing is how much fewer that number is compared to other control decks of the format. If you look at the fairy strategies, they're probably playing like 8, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, but it's about the same. And decks like Boros Monarch, or I guess the Prophetic Prism builds of Boros Monarch that have kind of died off pretty hard, but that and the White Black Pestilence decks all are playing 10, maybe a little bit under, a little bit over, but based around 10 comes into play tapped lands. And that's a huge selling point for Tron, is why the deck is so powerful going into the late game when you hit turns like 10 through 15 and you're still just dropping untapped lands that are generating 2 or 3 mana. That's how you are so effective at dominating other fair matchups, is having that massive mana advantage that's coming into play untapped. And so Bajuka Bog, being another tap land, does worry me a little bit, but it has really shown for me in certain spots. Raptor 56 has really turned me on to it, the Pauper god himself. And it has its moments, and it also has its really bad moments. So it's a tough card to evaluate because it feels really bad in certain spots when you need an untapped land, but then it can feel really good in other spots where your opponent's very obviously trying to use their graveyard, like versus Cycle Storm. But it's also a very subtle card at times to try and assess how much value it's getting. Say you're playing versus an Archaeomancer strategy and you put it into play, and you don't know if you're stranding an Archaeomancer in their hand or not, because Tron is not typically looking at an opponent's hand, so you can surmise that you've disrupted them in some way with it, but it's hard to know when it's really been the best thing that your opponent could be doing with their mana. And that can also come up into play against Affinity, where Affinity has so many ways to spend their mana effectively to generate card advantage that countering a Blood Fountain doesn't always feel the best. But it does also have its moments where maybe Affinity has no board presence and they go to crack a Blood Fountain, and then you use your second crop rotation and get the Bajuka Bog, and you just time walk them. And that feels pretty great. So it does have these moments where it is really powerful and turns the game around. The kind of side consideration that I have here is that Bajuka Bog is an additional black source for the deck. Fiery Cannonade is a pretty amazing card, but Bajuka Bog being reasonable right now does make me wonder if maybe Suffocating Fumes is a slightly better selection for that, just to be easier on the mana. Fumes versus Cannonade is an interesting conversation, where the main thing that you're hitting with Cannonade that you're not with Fumes is Ninja of the Deep Hours, which is a card you're really, really, really interested in interacting with early. So it's a pretty big downside to try Suffocating Fumes in that. And also, the way the metagame is right now, there's not really a ton of decks where Fiery Cannonade is a bad card to have access to. So the cycling benefit from Suffocating Fumes, having that in your deck, is not actually that significant of an upside, although there are certainly, your mulligan to 5 where you would just love to hit a land drop on turn 3 and you really want to cycle like a Suffocating Fumes, whereas Cannonade's not going to be as useful in that kind of scenario. So I'm not playing the Suffocating Fumes for this league, but it's something I do want to be keeping in mind as we have this additional black source to play with. And the last thing I want to say about Bajuka Bog is just looking at how other Tron lists are constructed. I've seen a lot of people cut Cave of Temptation for Bajuka Bog, and I think I'd rather shave an island, or as I've done here, the Thornwood Falls. I think Cave of Temptation is too important in sideboard games versus fairies to want to cut that. Just having it be a red or green or blue or white source is just too vital, I think. And it's important to have an untapped rainbow land as another use case for crop rotation. I played a league with where I had just replaced Cave of Temptation with Bajuka Bog, and I wasn't able to crop rotate for Cave of Temptation versus Affinity to have immediate access to another colored source. So the crop rotation was an investment in the future for an additional colored source, and due to all the pressure that I was getting at that time, it didn't make sense to use my colored mana for that purpose. So instead I just had this crop rotation that was doing nothing in my hand, whereas if I had been able to get the Cave of Temptation, I could have been generating additional colored mana without putting me behind on those crucial turns where you need to be interacting. So I like having the flexibility of Cave of Temptation to develop out your colored sources with immediate benefits with crop rotation. So I don't want to be picking one or the other. I think you want both there. So that's kind of my thoughts on Bajuka Bog there. I know that might be a lot to talk about a relatively innocuous card, but it's always interesting to go on kind of a deep dive for what the card brings to the deck. So without further ado, we're going to play. Here we are for round number 1 versus Leo K. Thurix. No idea on the pronunciation for that one. But I don't believe I played against this person before. Pretty easy mulligan. And pretty happy to keep this one. I think it's Thornwood Falls or Weather the Storm that I want to put back here. I think, given that I don't know this player, they're more likely to be on like an aggressive strategy like Burn or Cycle Storm, and I think I would like Weather the Storm in that instance. It's unlikely for the 1 life to matter over Thriving Isle. We can name up whatever we want with that. Okay, Heroic, always a great matchup. They do put you on a fast clock, but they're, as a mono white deck, just really incapable of interacting with your flicker loops. Yeah, Our hand does need help, but if they're on one land, it is unlikely that they're going to have the speed to really keep up with us. Okay, now we might be in a little bit of trouble. Really just need to find this first moment's peace. So with that in mind, I think we're just going to hold up weather here so we can try not to die to a single spell. But it's possible we're just dead here. And that happens. Battlefield Raptor, interesting. Well, doing it pre-combat is a huge favor for us. Although I think we're still dead to mutagenic. No, that's not how math works. Yeah, we are just dead. If we had drawn Moment's Peace there, we could go ornament into Moment's Peace and be in pretty reasonable shape, but we did not. That's alright. So, unfortunately, the way our sideboard is constructed, we really don't have anything for this matchup. I'm pretty interested in the one Serene Heart. I think will be better than Fiery Cannonade, because unlikely for Cannonade to ever really kill anything. And Serene Heart does have play, or Cannonade can kill like some of the small secondary creatures that they have, but that's not really the crux of any particular game. Whereas there are circumstances where you can go Serene Heart into Dinrova Horror and kill like a pro black or blue creature, and that can be a pretty nice swing, as well as just taking a lot of damage off from Ethereal Armors. It's unlikely for Cannonade to ever have that impact. There's some thought for Ancient Grudge in case they have a relic or two, but I think we can just play through that, particularly with Dinrova Horror in this deck. So we don't have a fog. Not having land 3 rolled up here does add a certain amount of risk, but I think I'm willing to take it here. Alright, my mouse died, so I had to go get batteries for it, but we're back now. I think I've talked myself into this keep, but I'm probably going to lose now that I've done this. And doesn't need a whole lot to just go like turn 3 Drifter, and that's going to be pretty good. Perfect. Alright, hand's great now. Alright, so now we go mine, float green, crop rot into a power plant. Ornament. And we'll just drift away. I'm probably gonna chump here. I want to turn on Pulse of Marasa as a powerful draw, and it's pretty easy for them to assemble a protection from blue enchantment later on, so any value I can get out of this Drifter is going to be pretty great. But they might just emerge unscathed here, but if I get to block, this is awesome. Yeah. Just played a Fog that drew 2 cards. Busted. Let's start with Prism, and then Compulsive. Yeah, we can Compulsive here. I do kind of want to get the Compulsive out of our hand, and then we can If we draw another Tron land, we can teachings for Moment's Peace and be completely risk-free. Not completely, but really not worried about anything. And if they don't do anything, I'll probably just draw with Ornament. Can also teachings for negate if they have a strange hate piece. That is a lot of damage. Actually, now that I think about it, I am a little scared, so hold on, let's teachings for Moment's Peace and then Impulse, so that if they have like a Mana Tithe here, I don't get my teachings lost to that. Guess I'll just take another wall. So now my main concern is going to be Fairy Macabre as the way that they interact with this. So I want to try and access an additional Moment's Peace. But also make an attempt to not expose them at the same time. So what that means is on their turn, I'm going to teachings for Moment's Peace before I cast it, I think. Before I cast the other Moment's Peace. Well, I guess that doesn't matter, but the point does still stand. I'm trying to be cognizant about not exposing myself to that. I guess I don't know what they could have here, but we'll find out. The negate is nice if they have like a Beckon Apparition. That's the other frequently played card in addition to Relic. But everything ought to be just fine here. Do need to hit an Ephemerate or a Ghostly Flicker at some point, but really no rush. And then at some point we could just point the Thunder upstairs. Will say I'm grateful of all the matches to have my mouse battery die. Heroic is a great one where timing out is really just not a concern. Land drop, always great. I appreciate them not attacking with the Deathblade Elite and saving us all a few clicks. Not that my opponent is obligated to make the game easier for me, but I can still appreciate it when they do. Nice. So here we'll grab the ephemerate, have negate counterspell up in case it uses the stack, and can teachings for the ghostly flicker if it's fairy macabre, but it is not. So I believe we have this one all the way rolled up, and then we can start just tossing some baby rolling thunders for a smidge of damage upstairs when we're feeling a little zesty. But it's not really necessary to try to compulsive them out, especially since I just clicked through that. That's what I get for talking too much. Alright, well, that's it, I guess. Just clicked through it. Alright, I guess we're going to game 2, or match 2. Alright, here we are for round 2. After a pretty horrific punt, but everything's fine because this hand is broken. So we'll see how things go. Okay, the redemption round. So I just wanted to lull them into a full sense of security. Get into the 0-1 bracket. Unfortunately, I don't have much interesting to say about the matchup. Matchup's still great. And we'll just have to play better. And by play better, I mean not just click through the combat stuff, but I'm going to stop. I'm officially done talking about it. Sands come together well. I'm going to have the turn 3 Drifter. Don't even need to necessarily Drifter. We can just play Ornament and pass. And how worried am I about them killing me? I don't think I'm actually that worried, so I am just going to Ornament. They do get to just chomp on through here. I don't get a block here at all, but I don't think I could have sequenced to get the Moment's Peace there, right? No. Because accessing the second colored mana is always going to put me a little bit too low. So, yeah, that's fine. So I might die here, and that's okay. Not dead. That's awesome. Wall is great, so we got this relatively locked up if they don't have any surprise interaction. So, just gonna go Prism. And I'm not even gonna play the second Prism because there's no need to like lose to a main deck Mana Tithe if they have it. Before, I want to say Modern Horizons 1, I think that was when Benevolent Blessing came out. Oh wait, I can also just block. Very cool with blocking. awesome. Um, when Chominot's Blessing was the one of the protection spells they played, they could occasionally interrupt a flicker loop with it, but Benevolent Blessing is a lot better for that deck, and they don't need to respect it, or we don't need to worry about that. But it was an interesting point back in the day. Good. This would be a good turn for a tap land if we draw one. Let's keep developing more mana. Could play the Drifter this turn, but again, don't need to expose myself to Mana Tithe in any way, shape, or form. So, just gonna wait. Opponent getting brutally burned by one of the worst parts of playing Heroic, which is having to play your Secluded Step and then drawing lands after it. It feels horrible. Oh wait, I thought this had to enchant a creature you control. Interesting. I must have just misremembered it. Yeah, that's... I guess I'll Impulse, because Negate or Counterspell just ends this right here. That one. Click the Moment's Peace button. Engage with the clicky clicky. Hit them land drops and go back to fogging every turn till time resets. I'm just not even really interested in dealing with the draw step from activating Bonder's Ornament. Guess I have like a non-zero interest in just drawing this Rolling Thunder right now. It was the card I was looking for, so very nice to draw it. Especially since Heroic is like one of the, perhaps the only white deck in the format that doesn't play Prismatic Strands. Alright. Kinda had it all that game. Again, do Serene Heart for Fiery Cannonade. And we'll get to game 2. Dinrovahor is pretty good on the matchup, but it's bad with, or hard to cast without Tron. Weather the Storm is pretty unreliable since they deal damage in such large chunks. So really what I'm keeping here is Island, Tower, Prism, Teachings. Those 4 cards. So do I think my mulligan to 6 can have a better early game than those 4 cards? I think it's really the crucial decision here. And I think I can have better hands. So I'm going to mulligan. Interesting. Yeah, I think I would want to mulligan this as well. If one of these was another Urza land so that I could have the crop rotation for like a guaranteed turn 3 Tron, maybe things get more interesting, but not with that. Definitely not keeping that. So Serene Heart, Mnemonic Wall, pretty easy bottoms, and then probably just keep 2 Moments Peace, Island Mine. Sounds like a plan. Their mulligan to 4 is going to be a lot better than mine, though. Okay, without turn 1 Trailblazer, I feel better. That was. Imagine they have the Skyguard. Impulse is a great draw. Not caring about main phasing it. I don't really care if they mana tithe it. That seems pretty great for me. Think Prism here does have the unfortunate consequence of getting blown out by Fragmentize, which these decks frequently sideboard as well, but we have wisely opted to draw another Prophetic Prism, so that potential downside is just negated. And now we're looking pretty well set up. Okay, no graveyard hate. No graveyard hate piece means that these moments pieces are just going to resolve, which is awesome for us. Don't need to play around Mana Tithe because if they draw it, this is just 9 damage. So this isn't actually an interesting spot. So something I've done when I've played Heroic versus Tron is actually boarded in Gut Shot, just as a way to like accelerate your Laguna Band Trailblazers. And I can put myself to 1 here. Do I think my opponent has boarded in Gut Shot? I think it's worth respecting since our hand is pretty good. Hit green here, but I don't think that name matters too much. I'm just going to flashback the one in the graveyard since we have stuff to do with our mana next turn. In this Mole Drifter, we don't really want to expose ourselves to Fairy Macabre with both of them and constrict our options on this turn. Crop Rotation's a fine draw. So we do really want to find a mnemonic wall or an additional moments piece, but there's the wall. Okay, so I think this is a reasonable way to tap for it. think I bottomed the ghostly flicker on one of those impulses earlier. So we are going to be more looking for ephemerate. That's the one. Those were some good impulses, I'll say. Thunder's not bad here either. Don't have quite enough to clear everything, but they're probably F6'd. But I don't think we need to risk anything either. Ornament is a touch awkward here. Like, I mean, it's not bad by any stretch, but we don't get to like do absolutely everything this turn. But I do need to cast Moment's Peace. Alright. So we have 10 Tron mana, 13. So we do have exactly enough to just thunder away their board. And I believe they're going to be F6 to let me do that. So I think that's what I'm going to... I do just have this Moment's Peace in the graveyard. It's kind of greedy to do that. I think it's better to hold off on this ornament. And if this Drifter can get in front of the Skyguard, we don't need to fog this turn, which is nice. Shame that we have a protection from white blocker and no... Oh right, that's how this... That's provoke. Right. Okay, this is cool. This is cool. Oh, and I draw the teaching so I don't get to do my cool play. I can Rolling Thunder my mnemonic while Pulse of Marasa it back, and then Ephemerate. So I think that's still probably the play here. But now I just have teachings for Moment's Peace on their turn, and then I can Pulse of Marasa it back on the end step. If they have another blessing for, oh, I guess they can't have blessing for pro red, but they could have something else there. To, I guess, mutagenic growthing on my creature would have been annoying. Although it probably looks like I'm just like saltily scooping, but that's like actually a good thing to be doing here. Are unfortunately okay, let me pull some Marasa first. So that a Fairy Macabre is not completely devastating. Okay, cool. Well, it was an interesting way to re-access the mnemonic while I was thundering it. So that's pretty cool, at least. Alright, here we are for round number 3 versus Out 0. If I recall correctly, I've been playing a lot of Affinity. Easy mulligan the no-lander. This hand's a keep, but an interesting on what to put back. I think I'm somewhat inclined to keep this cannonade. So that's one of the draw spells that I don't want. And I kind of just hate casting Compulsive Research. Yep, so Affinity, although it's unclear what. It does give my hand away a bit, but I think I name red. I think it's just too likely that our curve is turn 2 Impulse, turn 3 Cannonade that... Although now they get to just do this and not be worried about Moment's Peace, which kind of sucks, but... I don't know, maybe that's just not avoidable. I don't think that's a kill with Temur Battle Rage. Not that I've seen that card played in a while, but... Well, if it isn't the consequences of my own not naming green on this Thriving Isle. Ugh. I think it's still probably good to take this Moment's Peace. We're just a little bit far away from casting things on the main phase, which is a real issue versus Affinity. So my options are Impulse or just cast Cannonade on the main phase. Cannonade on the main phase removes the Frogmite, so it takes away 2 damage, and I'm still taking a bunch in their turn. I think it's probably best to Cannonade. It's just very middling. Like, I don't think they have a Disciple. I don't think they're going to play more into it, so this is going to be the best value I can likely get out of this. Very possible I die this turn. Like, just double Disciple here, just easily dead. And that's 13 damage. It's not lethal. Yeah, this hand wasn't beating Fling in any series of sequences. Alright, so now we have the 10 card sideboard. Wahoo. Alright. Coming out. Candidate unfortunately needs to stay in. Taking out all the Moments pieces. From here it gets more difficult. I think I like trimming on A teachings. I think kind of like that. This is kind of like what you do versus Burn, where you trim on your inevitability a little bit, so that you still have like Pulse and Marasa to like recur Mnemonic while in Ghostly Flicker, but you're not as unlikely to have all the tools to really beat that end game anyway, because they're so focused on being linear, and that linear plan is good versus you. So yeah, I like this. Yep, easy mulligan. I do want to be somewhat more aggressive with hands that have Tron and not a whole lot else going, because Fangren Marauder is such an important part of the matchup. I think this one I'll keep. Put back Prophetic Prism. And importantly, I want a Thriving Isle named Red here for the Ancient Grudges that are in the deck. And we do not have any Moments pieces. I think I still want a Prism here. Fangren's a nice one. Yeah, that's Duress is okay. Ooh, one lander. Do I want to name with this Thriving Isle? I guess it's green. Doesn't super matter because of the Prism. It's just I don't really know necessarily. Okay, cool. Don't know if I was really winning that game, but also do not blame them for that. Okay. Yep, still just fine. So one thing that's like sometimes comes up versus sideboarding versus Affinity, you do kind of treat the Grixis and the red-black versions largely the same, but when you're playing versus Grixis, they may have access to Dispel, and one of the cards that's just most garbage in your deck versus Dispel is Crop Rotation. So it's nice versus red-black, which is indicated by the Frogmite that they played, that you can just leave the Crop Rotation in and be pretty worry-free about that, especially because that lets you get to Fangren Marauder a lot faster in many hands. And that's a lot less reliable versus Grixis, where the threat of Dispel is like pretty challenging. This is a functional hand, but I think it might be a mulligan. No blue Elemental Blast and no Fangren Marauder, no fast Tron. I think it's just too slow. No lands, mulligan. This is probably a keep. It's just unlikely that there's a 4-card hand that's better. Because a 4-card hand really is... It'd have to be like 2 Tron lands, Prism, Marauder. And that's not even necessarily better. So yeah, I think this is a keep. So Teaching's way too expensive. Ornament similarly too expensive, so I think we just do this and pray that we get a land in our first 2 draw steps. But it's okay if we don't. They're gonna duress and know my shame. Okay. Play continues. Happy F6ing because if they Gal Blast my face, I don't really care to Blue Blast it. Enforcer. Interesting. Oh, they do have Red Blast. Oh, they're just disputing the token away. Surprised they didn't do that on the main phase with all their Frog Mites. So what is the best route forward? Do I play Prism? Do I play Impulse, or do I play Bonder's Ornament? I think I want to just try and get this Ornament into play. Obviously not feeling good though. So to take Blue Blast, play their ATOG, and I need to come up with an answer immediately. So that probably means I'm going to Impulse. And then if Impulse finds nothing, then I'll try to take a land from the Impulse and just try to Miracle it off of Prophetic Prism. I guess I'm curious what they're thinking about if not Blue Elemental Blast. Impulse. Interesting. I think we just let that happen. Okay, that's nice. So do they dredge? They do dredge. They mill an ATOG. Hitting ATOG here is pretty awful. Because that now their Blood Fountain is going to be really good. This is a curious game they've chosen to play. Well, I don't want to kill the Enforcer right now because then they just used all of their mana to Blood Fountain and get both things back and get the Enforcer and the ATOG back, so I want to at least delay that. I'm still going to do it this turn, but keep them from doing it at that time. Did not dredge that time, okay. It's also is like pretty well paced with the Bonders ornament, so like if they Blood Fountain now and replay the Enforcer, then I can slam Ornament and go flashback the Grudge on the Enforcer. And that's a nice place to be. Somewhat stable. Although I'll be going to 10 from the Enforcer dying, 9 from the Disciple attacking, and they'll have presumably 1 artifact land to play, so they'll have 8 lands. So it'll be at a functional 1 if they just want to sack their board. Okay, well that's helpful here. So now we can ornament. Wait, what? Sacking the treasure token now? Okay, God bless me, that's fine. So now we can blue blast the ATOG. If they have any interaction on top of that, we're in trouble. It's interesting too, the shenanigans here. Okay, they did take the shenanigans, and that's another point of damage here. But this is okay. Taxes their 1 red mana, which is novel as well. We can't play our Mnemonic Wall, which sucks. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I guess it doesn't really matter when I do it, because we know their hand is ATOG X. There's no way that they dread shenanigans this turn. So I guess I upkeep it if they have some kind of... I don't know. I guess I don't see a reason not to upkeep it and like use their mana in different ways. If they have like a Dispel, then using it this turn is nice. Okay, please don't have Duress. Duress is very bad here. Okay, they're being patient with their ATOG because they know about this blue Elemental Blast. I think they know about the wall. They do know about the wall. So their hand is not Galv Blast, because if it's Galv Blast, you just don't respect that this crop rotation can be another counterspell, or it can't even be. So if I play Mnemonic Wall this turn, they can play ATOG on their turn, and they've got 2 cards. If one of those is Disciple, I lose. And I'm not beating Galvanic Blast. And so if those 2 cards are Fling or Disciple, I'm dead. Is that worth risking trying to get this Impulse back from the graveyard with the wall? I think it is. Honestly, I think it is. I think it's so not guaranteed that this single blue Elemental Blast is enough to get me through the turn, and they know that I need to try and develop myself out here. Okay, Mirror Enforcer's beatable. Okay. I guess I wasn't beating this because they drew the Enforcer. Good games. That was a cool game. I really don't like the shenanigans plan from them, but it certainly worked out against my mulligan to 5 with drawing 3 artifacts. But that was a cool game. Alright. Talked about it in the intro, but this is the Pauper legend himself, Raptor 56. So what he's been on lately is some Storm, I think. His hand can't really beat Storm. Doesn't really have explosive mana. It's basically just, is this impulse good? And I don't even really know what I'm impulsing for, so I'm inclined to mulligan. This hand doesn't really function. Okay, this hand slaps. Alright, so this is 5, so I have to put 2 back. Unfortunately, if they're just like relaying me, this Dinrovahor doesn't really do much, so I probably just have to put back Cave and Dinrovahor. Or, I don't know, maybe Dinrovahor is the only like good thing I have going. Nah, I feel like I just gotta crop rotation on turn 3. And like, oh, this is even worse. Oh, this is even worse. Okay. So I'm probably... Oh, I guess they didn't have Sprawl. They would have played Sprawl there if they had it. This is like more in... Or they've got like multiple Freed from the Rail combos in this deck. It's interesting here. So I can just play Ornament and preserve this colored source. Or I can play Power Plant, tap 3 for Ornament, preserve all of my colored sources. Or I can play Power Plant, crop rotation, the Thriving Eye away for another tower, play Ornament, draw immediately, and see where that gets me. I think that's probably what I have to do because I'm in such bad shape here. Like, this isn't a bad place to be in like the majority of games, but I think versus this, it's just... They're tapping with Axebane Guardian. They got a transmute for Freed. And then any draw spell probably kills me. So when I got it, I will let you know. Alright. New Gate Creeper Vine. Oh, it's been a hot second since I've seen Gate Creeper Vine. So is this a little thin to win before the lead the Stampede or what have you? Alright, Drift of Phantasms has to kill. I'm sure there's a Valakut Invoker or something. So really not well equipped to handle this, although Defenders is just one of Tron's worst matchups by far. So we do have the Fire Cannonade, which lines up versus Arbor Elf reasonably well. These Moments pieces do not have text. This Weather the Storm does not have text, since they're dealing in infinites. So Red Elemental Blast comes in. Ancient Grudge can interact, or yeah, these These rebs can hit Freed from the Real or um, Secret Door or Mullet Drifter. So that's like pretty strong hits. So then we've got Serene Heart for Freed from the Real is also good. There's a chance we get like the first window of activation where they can't float enough in response to untap the creature multiple times. So there's a chance that Serene Heart works. Ancient Grudge is only going to matter versus Secret Door. And Secret Door can only be activated as a sorcery, but I think that's a one-of, and it's less likely to be relevant. And plus, I've already got these Rebs that are going to be hitting that. So the other consideration is, can I Fangren Marauder to just as a 5/5? Is that something I'm interested in? I kind of am. Mnemonic Wall, like this whole Flicker package is unlikely to really come together at all, but I don't know, I guess Flicker locking with Counterspell or something is an end game that we can play towards, but unlikely to get there. Hand is probably as good as we can reasonably hope for. Guess I'll keep. If we hit a land off of these first 3 draw steps, we can go turn 3 Ornament into Hold Up Reb, which is probably going to be one of our few ways to not be completely ruined. Crop Rotation's a great draw. We do need to land 3. We do need to land 3. I've been hit for 1. Did not get land 3. Alright. See what they hit here. They got a Gate Creeper Vine. Cool. Okay, that was what we needed, so we can just play an Ornament here. Do I want to cast second Ornament? I guess I'm holding up basically all the same stuff, so yes, I think I do. Okay. Caretaker's fine. And this one we're going to try and counterspell. Okay. I guess I'm just gonna pass the turn here. I've got like some proactive things that I can do. It's gonna be Drift for lead. So I can Ghostly Flicker, Drifter, and Tower to draw 2 more. and see if I hit negate in that. And then if I hit negate, I'm in good shape, but I think that's worse than just holding up double reb here. Because they have mana. I just gotta hope that they brick a little bit. And it appears that they have. Because now I get to flicker, draw 3. Maybe hit some land drops in here. Okay, Serene Heart's not bad. I can have Teachings for negate as well. I cannot attack with my Drifter because I believe I lose this race versus the 2 Arbor Elves. Crop Rotation has text because Raptor is having his technology used against him. So if he goes for a Reaping the Graves, I can Crop Rotation for Bajuka Bog. I guess I just Teachings for negate here. Wait, I just talked about this Bajuka Bog line. I just talked about it. What am I doing? Why am I not just crop routing for Bajuka Bog? That's probably what he thinks I'm gonna go Teachings for, and I just have it, and I just got there like 6 seconds late. Okay, that's fine, that's fine. We got very lucky to win that one. Didn't even really show too much of what we have going on as far as these rebs. Although Raptor's smart, I think he'll figure out that's likely what I'm doing. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Hand is not playable. Hand is also bad. Guess we've got Counterspell. Yeah, I don't like these compulsives because we're just not really able to do things on the main phase if we're trying to play this counter game. And so then what's worse, a Prophetic Prism or Bonder's Ornament? And I think it's probably Prism, honestly, because I'm going to be trying to hold up this Counterspell for a while. And Mnemonic Wall is like Counterspell Part 2 is going to be pretty crucial. Crop Rotation's interesting because I was going to name Red to try and hold up Red Blast with this Thriving Isle. Now I don't know. I guess the game has to go pretty long before crop routing for Bajuka Bog is good, and I don't have Tron close to assembled, so it's like more likely that I draw a Red Blast than I draw like Tron land, and I need that. Oh, good. That's good. Yep. Can't really fight them on the mana. It's just, I hope that I draw more counter spells than you have payoffs, is the whole game. God. I guess we just hope to counter this Lead the Stampede and hope that's good enough. Okay, you can have your Winding Way. Oh no. I guess we know the whole contents of their hand, so we just counterspell this. Let them play the Arbor Elf. Oh, I guess this Freed went to the graveyard. Wait, so there's a card I don't know about. Oh, I did that wrong. Okay, I guess not punished, but... oh, God. Now do I hold up this Red Blast too? No, this is so awkward. So awkward. I think we hold it up. Like, this 2 damage doesn't matter. And if we draw, like, any land, we get to hold it up just the same, so it's, like, not... Okay. I guess play continues. So I do need to ornament here to hold up Crop Rotation or Red Elemental Blast. So that way, if they draw Pulsar Marasa, I can counter that. Okay, they got Winding Way. And they've drawn more mana. That's fine. They have drawn a couple 1-power creatures now. We are kind of dying. Oh, this is heartbreaking. Not that we should win this matchup. We should get obliterated in this matchup every single time. It's just that... Oh wait, I guess I should kill this now. Because, yeah, I was still operating under this assumption that they had... the Freed from the Real, but no, I can actually just interact with that. Drifter, try to hit some land drops. God. We're doing just like such little to stay in this game, but also just it's slipping away slowly to these 1/1s attacking me. Like, if I draw an untapped land, I'm just putting this Drifter into play. God. Oh, am I gonna spew another Drifter? I have to, I think. I just need these land drops so bad, and Prophetic Prism is just not gonna do it. I don't think I want that second look. Okay, Negate is a really great consolation prize. I'm just gonna bin the second Mnemonic Wall, I think, because we're pretty far ways off from that. Okay, so we're going to 7. Because all of this is contingent on Raptor not drawing well. Okay, so... This goes and gets mine. You go and get Power Plant. I can't hit more land drops, but at least we have this Rolling Thunder to try and salvage the game at some point. Oh my god, Raptor, I'm so sorry. Okay, he's not attacking, that's great. That is great. Okay, can I hit a land drop, please? Oh my god. Okay. Okay. We are in fine shape though. cast Mnemonic Wall, get back Counterspell, and then I play out this other ornament, so now I'm holding Counterspell up, and next turn I can assemble Ephemerate plus Counterspell. I still need a little bit of help here to stabilize the board before I can start attacking with Drifter and get towards this Rolling Thunder. But my god, he's drawn so bad for me to be in this game. This is unreal. So Teaching's back the crop rotation. Impulse, I just need like another artifact or land drop. Ghostly Flicker's great. How did I win this game? Where am I? How is this happening? Can I still just not hit a land drop for the life of me? That's all I want. It's just not, they're just barely even here. Okay. Serene Heart. Second Reb. Land. Prism, I guess. Am I discarding a land now too? Come on. I think I might. No, I just needed to get rid of this Reb. It doesn't matter. Okay, Sprawl is fine. Okay, this is just a lot more mana. Oh, Raptor. Oh, you poor thing. You've convinced me to play Pajukabog, and now I'm just gonna it's gonna bog you into oblivion. Yep. At least I get to feel smart, right? That like I got to I crop rotationed, or I ephemerated this crop rotation back a while ago, and now it's mattering. Like, that feels pretty cool. He knows it too. Oh, that was a great match. How did we win that? That's nuts. It's so nuts. At least I feel pretty proud of how I played that. It was a funky game. Like, both of those sideboard games were not like typical Tron games, and played pretty well to win those, which is cool. Interesting mulligan decisions. Almost dying to Arbor Elf beatdowns. You laugh at it, and it almost happened. Like, it worked so hard to hit those land drops. That was just a wild match. Alright, that was round 4. Let's finish this out. Alright, here we are for round number 5 versus Parallax. Actually, in the last video, I believe, they beat me with Cleansing Wildfire Jeskai. And appears we got a mirror. So this hand's pretty good for the mirror because it's awesome. Turn 3 Drifter. Do have this Moment's Peace that's pretty underwhelming, but need to just make sure that we are maintaining a good pace of play through these early turns, because you're going to have some hard moments that come up later and require a lot of thought. And I think that's really the most important part about playing fast. Is Ornament was another absurd draw. It's not about rushing through to demonstrate that you know things. It's to give yourself time when things get harder. Okay, so both of our ornaments are kind of offline. They've assembled a really good draw as well. So what do I want to do from here? I think prisming is good. And I think I'm just going to compulsive myself post-combat. And probably bin these 2 Moments Pieces, which are likely worse than basically everything else my deck does. Like a land drop is just more valuable. Thriving Grove, interesting. On black, okay. Really want to be trying to get towards a protected Rolling Thunder. I don't think I want Bojuka Bog because we don't need it at this moment, and that's going to be a good draw for a crop rotation later. So then it's Flicker or Pulse of Marasa. Flicker helps us get really far ahead here, but we also have Ephemerate to that end. But I also don't think they're going to be removing my creatures, so I think I want the Flicker. Like, I don't think Parallax really plays Counterspell. A lot of Tron decks play Prohibit, so I think once these are in, they're just pretty well in. It's fine. It's like basically just the Muldrifter damage negated, so you know it's not nothing, but it's. I don't think I really want to try to draw a negate for that in particular. This is a really middling Bojuka Bog. Didn't really want those. So now they do have a threat of Ghostly Flicker, which is a pretty powerful thing to do with a Bog that's in play. Okay, there's Rolling Thunder. That's really what I wanted. So now we have the capacity to just poke through some damage. Oh, Dinrovahor? Hell yeah. Yes. Yes, I am an ape. Just gonna throw things on the stack. I just got this garbage top end. That's not always necessary, and I'm just gonna dumpster them with it. I hope. They've only got one of each Tron land, so we can even get a little bit disruptive there. Cool. Cool. Okay. That was game one. Got kind of rewarded for being on the play, but also just had these mole drifters to apply some pressure and then just draw me into a lot more action. Okay, I think Red Blast obviously busted. Ancient Grudge seems pretty good. Blue Elemental Blast I think is playable on the virtue of countering their red Elemental Blasts. Moment's Peace does not matter. Stonehorn Dignitary can matter because of Ulamog's Crusher, but Moment's Peace is just never going to. Fiery Cannonade is never going to matter. Those are 6 very easy cuts. Really don't like Compulsive Research. I think it's like a necessary evil in the deck, but you do see me just board it out all the time. That's okay. So I think those 7 I definitely want out. The rest of this is a lot harder. Ephemerate is definitely a harder sell because of how many red elemental blasts there are. It's really hard to like stick your creatures and then start flickering them, but it's so important to being your end game that I don't think you can just not play them. They did show Thriving Grove over there, which makes me a little bit more reticent to play Ancient Grudge heavily, because it just gets a lot worse with that in the mix. But I do want 1, so maybe it's like 2 Blue Blast, 1 Grudge, 4 Rebs. I don't hate that. And I do really like the Rolling Thunder as just the I win button, because I think you need that for when you fall behind and like need to cheese it out. Let's give this a shot. Maybe I should be playing more Ancient Grudge. Okay. Wow. This hand's awesome. More Thriving Grove. Maybe they're not blue. Okay, they named blue. They're blue. Okay, if they can interact with my ornaments, I am in trouble. This is so stupid though. I play the Tron Mirror and I just luck into Natural Tron both games on 7 cards. Not that I'm like locked to win this game by any sense, but I have very much noob lucked my way so far. So that's pretty bad for me here. Especially now they get their ornament uncontested. That's a nice pickup. Alright, yeah, I'm pretty far behind now. Have a drifter to tie the room together. Yep. Not an exciting bog, but I think letting them untap with teachings is asking for trouble. So what am I thinking about doing on my turn? I do really want to grudge their Bonder's Ornament out of here. God, Compulsive's really good for them there. Two ornaments? Okay. Trading Wall Drifters is whatever. It's like... their flickers are worse, but you turn on Pulse Marasa, and you do the same for yourself. Like my flickers are worse, but my Pulse Marasa is better. I don't know. I think it's fine. Second ornament means that grudging here is not really great. But I don't really know what else I have going on. Like, playing Wall to get back Negate is just asking to get buried by these ornaments, so I think I just grudge and hope that we can start to peel out. This is a pretty strong case to have all of my grudges in, given how much it's just destroying me this game. Yeah, like I said, they have the Pulse Marasa. Yeah, I'm pretty dead here. So, oh, they have Crusher? That's weird. Wonder if Crusher informs my sideboarding differently, but just super dead. Okay. Blue Blast did not look great there, so I think I want the two grudges over that. Compulsive Research looked really good, so maybe I want that over maybe a Teachings. Teachings is really good when you're winning, but it's just very bad when you're behind and trying to get things together. I do need these two cards because they both manage Crusher as well as just winning the game. Yeah, I guess I feel a little bit better about this. No Blue Blast just does. It is just unfortunate, but I guess these negates are hopefully going to be enough. But just yeah. Blue Blast is functioning a lot like Dispel, and if they're attacking my mana with Ancient Grudge, it just gets so much harder to act as a Dispel. Whereas the rest of this stuff is a lot better proactive, so yeah, let's try it. I had two really, really good hands, and one of them didn't get there, so I just don't feel confident that I can draw another good hand. Well, this is good. I'm going to keep it. Doesn't have Tron, but it gets the Prism into play, and then goes reasonably well from there. Okay, so I can try to Impulse for another artifact and then Ancient Grudge there. I think I want to do that. Get a little bit greedy here. Fail. And then try to hit this Genrova Horror for the following turn. And if they grudge me, we have this Cave of Temptation to not be in the worst shape. Okay, that's fine. They're very far off from Tron, so that's not a huge issue for the time being. I did also not appropriately react to the part where I noob lucked into Tron again. And I also just have this Ephemerate and Ghostly Flicker, so if they don't Red Blast me right now, they're in a lot of trouble. I guess if they have crop rotation, they can kill my Prism. Okay, this is dirty. Look away. This is bad. I'm a bad person. No, I'm not a bad person. But this is... Yeah, that's a pretty not insanely good game of Tron there. That was a wild mirror. That was a very wild mirror. We both had really good hands all 3 games. Because like usually the mirror ends up that like one player like gets a good hand and the other doesn't. Particularly in game 1, and then it just gets to be a complete steamroll. But that felt like, they had double Tron land, crop rotation, and like Gorilla Shaman to interact. They had Ornament as well, so like they had the pieces to get their ball rolling as well. But then Robohorde really just did a lot of work for us. So that was something. Wow, those last 2 matches are just nonsense. Those were crazy games. It was an awesome league, though. I'm glad I got to share that. Although there's, the first match was just the stupid punt, but whatever. If you haven't seen Heroic versus Tron, it's not exciting. It's the bread and butter Tron matchup where there's no interaction. So it's a shame to lose that to a punt, but I'm not worried about it, especially since we pulled out positive in the league. I'm disappointed, but there's some amount of learning to play better and talk at the same time, and I think I do reasonably well with like not always clicking and talking at the same time. And I think in that match in particular, I was clicking and talking at the same time. I usually have a reasonable pace of clicking through the unexciting moments and then talking more when there's an interesting decision to have made. But having that cadence not really for that match, I think, is definitely bad, and I think I got a little lazy with that talking and it cost me, but that's okay. That is okay. Learning is good, and I'm learning how to do this whole content thing a little bit better and maybe be more entertaining or just enunciate and discuss effectively. So, yeah, that was a fun league. Nice little 3-2. Always happy to see that. And let me know what you think. I guess a last final thought is, was Bajukabog worth it? I would say yes. The first 2 matches did not matter. Questionable whether it mattered versus Affinity, and then the last 2 matches it was crucial and winning. So I think it is probably a pretty reasonable inclusion for the time being. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see ya.